Welcome into Bucs Insider, coming to you from the Bucs studio, presented by Ticketmaster. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Bree Dix, and we are officially into the most dead off-season time that exists all year long, because we just wrapped up the whole off-season program and mandatory minicamp, which is a great time to kind of start getting a handle on what's happening with the team, some of the different things of who's maybe working at different positions, who's injured, who's not. We get more answers during that time, and now we have this next month-ish where nobody's here. Players, coaches, everybody just disappears for their vacations.
Scattered to the wind.
Dead zone.
Yes, the dead zone. So, but
and more power to them.
More,
You know, they all should get a rest. They all should get recharged. But Coach Bowles was stressing that they stay in shape, whichever coach is, but specifically work outside.
Yes, in the heat.
In the heat. Stay acclimated to the heat.
Which I think about the people who like live in places up north, and I'm like, what, are they going to go to a hot yoga studio and try to work out there?
In the sauna.
Yeah, work out their whole time in the sauna to replicate Florida. So let's start with some of the injury news and updates, because of course there's a lot of speculation in the off season, and there's no official injury reports. They are not required to say anything at all, but we were able to learn tiny bits of information based on even just kind of watching who's out there and who's not.
Yeah, I think things are. I think the roster's in pretty good shape overall. There were some guys that didn't practice. Tristan Wirfs didn't practice. Trey Palmer, receiver, didn't practice. Michael Pratt, the quarterback, who I think has a shot to battle for the second spot behind Baker Mayfield. None of those guys are practicing, but Coach Bowles said that they're just nicked up. You know, like you said, there's no injury report. He doesn't have to tell you exactly what it is, and but he said they should be fine for training camp. So I don't think there's any huge worry with any of those guys. Okay.
And then I know also, of course, Chris Godwin, that's one that a lot of people are asking about, of when is he going to be ready, when is he not? Did we learn anything on that front?
So Todd Bowles said that he is rehabbing inside right now, and then he said whenever trainers give him the go-ahead, they'll see what he can do outside, but I think the hope is that he's going to be ready to go week one, and I think if anybody were to bet on anybody to be ready to go, it would be Chris Godwin.
Yep.
They'll probably put him on active PUP to start the training camp, and because the only reason to do so is that gives you the option to put him on reserve PUP if he's not ready to go week one. You have to do the active part. It doesn't save you a roster spot or anything. It's just you have to do that part in order to keep that option open. You can put a guy on active PUP and hope that even if you think he's going to be ready for week one, but you're not 100% sure. Right. So we'll see if that happens. If that happens, then we'll know that there is still the possibility he won't be ready for week one. But like you said, this whole offseason, everybody's been kind of pretty optimistic that he can be ready. And you know, Chris is Chris.
Yes, we all. Right. Yeah, and of
back
course,
to work.
Also, Levante has not been practicing, but that's somebody that I think no one thinks needs to practice, essentially, at this point.
Well, and a lot of times during this part of the offseason, a lot of veterans can have, take precautionary measures or have procedures done, which there doesn't seem to be any concern that he'll be ready to go for training camp. And obviously fans are excited to see Levante do that.
Levante doesn't need 3 practices in June.
No,
he's done this a few times.
Give those to Anthony Walker and SirVocea Dennis.
Yeah, that's very true. And then another young guy, like I said, we're excited to see getting some of those reps is Tykee Smith. And I think he's going to be one of the more interesting storylines going into this year of where's he playing, what's he doing. What an incredible rookie year, and you hear a lot of talk of the jump from year 1 to year 2. And man, if he has any kind of jump, what an incredible player he's going to be this year. So what have we learned about his expectations for himself and the team, and where he might be playing this year?
Well, he's been cross-training at strong safety and nickel in Todd Bowles' defense, kind of likes to move guys around, kind of predominantly been lining up opposite Antoine Winfield Jr. in the backfield at safety. But really, I think something that stands out with him is just the route recognition, his coverage ability. We saw that during mandatory minicamp, and he had an aggressive press coverage play against Jalen McMillan, kind of punched the ball out. So I think he's a guy that can do a lot of different things, and has the blitz capability, has that kind of prowess near the box. So I think he's a guy that can move around but can do a lot of different things for Todd Bowles, or also draw back into coverage and kind of create some opportunities for guys and get his hands on balls.
Yeah, think of all the things that Bree just said there, like gets turnovers, can blitz, can play safety.
Sounds like a Todd Bowles player.
Yeah, yes. It sounds like I don't want to make comparisons that are hard to live up to, but it sounds like an Antoine Winfield kind of player.
Yeah.
And I think that the Buccaneers are going to find some way to have Tykee on the field for virtually every play.
That's something I've always liked about the way Bowles does his defense. Is it's like he's not someone of like, this is how my defense looks. It's what do I have at my disposal?
Exactly.
And I want my playmakers on the field in whatever capacity that's going to be. So, yeah, I think it'll be really cool to see what Tykee Smith is going to be able to do this year. And how
Charlie Strong was telling you that in Slice, wasn't he?
Yeah. He's like, we're going to just do whatever
that
works
Todd
with these guys.
That.
Yeah,
Specifically, Todd's really good at playing to the strengths of his coach.
Yeah, the players versus the plays kind of thing that you hear a lot of offensive coordinators say. It's a similar thing on that side. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. So I know also, of course, he talked in a recent show about the idea of trying to get Baker to maybe chill out on acting like an offensive lineman. So it was funny to hear that he discussed explosive plays, which we'll see what all is meant by that, of what kind of explosive plays. But he did discuss the importance of those, which hopefully can take place separate from him deciding to be a battering ram, which we do enjoy him doing.
Yeah, I know what he meant because he did say down the field.
Yes. So we are actually going to hear from him what he talked about a little bit here on this explosive play front and what they're looking to do this year.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to get some more explosive. Obviously, when you look at the stats, I'm not a big stat guy, but we weren't as much down the field explosives. We were creating a lot of open in the middle and guys getting some yak. But, yeah, working on that, being able to connect onto the chemistry we're trying to build right now and just the timing of some of these routes, where the landmarks are, understanding if it's too high, one high, where we're trying to throw the ball. So, yeah, this is the time of year we're working on it. Obviously, you would love to have more down the field shots, but any completion is a good one.
Yeah, so explosive plays, I mean, what an important thing in a game, what a momentum shifter, what a huge deal it can be for an offense. And tell me your thoughts on what we saw last year and looking to this year in terms of the stats of some of those explosive plays.
Is anybody complaining about the Bucs passing attack last year?
Nope. No.
Third in the league in passing yards and really, really good at yak. Yards after the catch. Second in the league in total yak to Detroit. And is anybody complaining about Detroit? I mean, Detroit gets everybody loves Detroit's offense. I mean, those offenses got Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen head coaching jobs.
Yep.
If the Buccaneers did exactly what they did last year, this year, and ended up with the third best passing attack and Baker Mayfield has 40-plus touchdowns, nobody would complain. It'd be fine, right? It's great.
Yeah.
We want that to continue, so that's a compliment. There's no complaints about what the Bucs have done. But the Buccaneers were 6th in the league in yards per pass attempt, which is great.
Yep.
But 29th in air yards per pass attempt. How far down pass line scrimmage is the ball going in the air?
Versus
And again, it worked.
Yeah.
But that shows you how it worked. If you could take that you already have and add down the field explosive plays, it's like best of both worlds. We could be talking about the best offense in the league, and that's what Luke Gedeke was saying the other day. He's like, every team says that, and that should be their goal. But he says, like, realistically, I think we have what it takes, realistically, to be the best offense in the league. And I think the way to get there would be to add those explosive plays to what is already a really good passing attack and rushing attack. So
yeah, and you bring back all 11 offensive starters, then you add an Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
Why would you not think this offense could be even better? And it's interesting, we got to hear a little bit from Baker about what he thinks the potential of an Emeka Egbuka is in this offense, because we've talked about, we have Mike, we have Chris, we have Jalen McMillan, we have Trey Palmer. What all is this going to look like? And I feel like we got a little insight into how Baker feels about it.
You weren't here yet, Bree, but Casey, you were here when Chris Godwin was a rookie. And immediately in training camp, we're hearing, this guy doesn't carry himself like a rookie at all. He's like a veteran right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody's already saying about Emeka Egbuka. He doesn't seem like a rookie at all, and he understands all the positions. Everybody thinks wide receiver is one position. Not everybody.
Yeah.
Some people think wide receiver is one position. It's like 4 different positions, and Emeka knows them all. So when you're talking about how do you get all these guys involved in the offense, a good problem to have, obviously. It helps if the guy can play anywhere. So if anybody's nicked up or if anybody just needs to come out for a while, Baker Mayfield called Emeka Egbuka a plug-and-play player at any of the receiver positions, which I think is high praise.
Yeah. And Jalen McMillan said he already has like over half the playbook already down and ready to go.
So do I.
It's a big deal, right?
I don't know what he's bragging about.
Obviously. Yeah, and I think it's so interesting because when you mention that of like, if somebody gets nicked up or whatever, which of course we are never, hoping for any of the injuries, but we saw even last year when Chris and Mike were down and you ended up having to have a guy like Cade Otton run those routes and play in the slot. How much easier if it's actually more of a wide receiver that's already truly able to, no matter who it is that potentially is hurt or out for any amount of time, to know you have a guy that could step into any of those roles is really exciting. And, we've talked, of course, first round draft pick, there's a reason we're talking about him a lot. But there's another offensive guy that we drafted later, much later in the draft, who I think could be a fun guy to watch in training camp and see what he could end up being.
Yeah, Tez Johnson, and I loved, Baker had a great quote on him, but he said, little guy, he's really explosive, he understands how to win on leverage, and he's one of those guys that you really cannot touch in a phone booth. He's fun to watch when he releases off press coverage, and I think that's something you saw at Oregon, was that electric ability before and after the catch, that the speed that he has, that quickness, like for in and out of breaks to kind of bait DBs. But I think he's a guy that can elevate this offense in a lot of ways. And like Baker said, last year was the perfect example of when you have guys go down, now you have a loaded room where guys can step up. And obviously we don't want injuries to happen anywhere, but he's a guy that whether it's the screens, the gadget plays, or the goes, the post, like he can do it all.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear every word you said because I was transfixed by those highlights that were going on. I had not seen that highlight package before. And you know, they always, every time Todd Bowles is asked, like, how did these guys look? And he's like, it's T-shirts and shorts.
Right.
So what can you say?
But you can want to look good in T-shirts.
Well, I can understand when you're talking about a lineman, but you can see a receiver. Man, he looks quick.
Yeah, and look at this, of course, the perfect timing of Mike Evans. We saw that quote of where he's talking about how this might be the best wide receiver room that he's ever been a part of. And I mean, I know that that's the kind of thing that maybe Mike said before, or maybe Mike would say no matter what, but I felt like I could really tell he meant it.
Right. Well, and he stressed with Emeka, he has the strong hands, the catch radius, but then with Tez, he said you see the quickness, you can see the speed. So just all around at every single element, the Bucs offense has it.
And my favorite quote of the entire minicamp was when Mike said of Emeka Egbuka, because somebody asked him about running after the catch like this, he says, yeah, he looks like a running back, but he catches like Chris Godwin.
What a
pretty high praise.
And that's just off the top of his dome. I don't think he planned that quote. That's what he really thinks. I was like, dang, that is high praise.
That's a huge deal. All right, well, we've talked a lot of offense, which is fair, but wanted to get a little bit into some of the defensive storylines from camp as well. And of course, Haason Reddick, a lot of eyes were on him because he had, finally come here to the mandatory minicamp, which again, everything prior to that voluntary. Lots of guys, end up not coming for different reasons, working out somewhere else. And but this was our first chance to really kind of get a look at Haason Reddick out there during mandatory minicamp. And I know he also got a chance to talk to the media a little bit. So what did we feel like we learned about kind of his mindset, approach, attitude, goals for the year?
Yeah, it's not a criticism at all, but sometimes when the media is surrounding a player and asking him questions, somebody has a turn of phrase in a question that's not meant in any way negatively, but it's maybe not what the player wants to hear. Maybe it feels like you're putting words in my mouth kind of thing. And he was asked something about, are you excited about this opportunity to regain your reputation as a top pass rusher? And that was said because there was nothing malicious about it. That was said because Haason Reddick had 4 straight double-digit sack seasons. And that was with 3 different teams, and including a 16-sack season. And you don't have a lot of players who get 4 straight.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And then he had the trade from Philly to New York Jets and some contract disputes, and he really never got going last year. And so he didn't have a double-digit sack season. And so, it's a chance. He said though that idea isn't what motivates him. He's not trying to prove to everybody that he's still the guy because he clearly feels he is still the guy.
Yeah. Right.
So as long as he performs where he wants to be, and he stressed as long as he's where he wants to be in a mental place, which we all have, I think, gotten more aware of with players in the last 5 years or so, which I think is a huge positive.
Thing. Yes. The mental health side. Yeah, I think it's incredible.
We've heard Tristan Wirfs, we've heard Chris Godwin, we've heard
Ryan Jensen talk about where he left.
Yeah, and it's good that guys are understanding themselves and how important that is, and be willing to talk about it.
Yeah,
and I love that he said that he worked out kind of by himself. He has his training regimen down, but also that he didn't want any distractions. He wanted to work all that out, get his place here, get settled, so that whenever he does come into this building, he can solely focus on being a Tampa Bay Buccaneer and winning for this team.
A lot of times we forget that, he had to move and relocate. He's got family. Like anyone of us who has had to move for jobs knows that you're not just here today, there tomorrow, and there's a lot of loose ends you got to tie up, and there's a lot going on.
He did admit, statistical goals. Does he have any goals? And he was doing thing you expect. He wants to win.
Yeah,
wants to help the team.
always
but then he did go, okay, double digits.
Yeah, okay, fine.
I do want to get to double digits.
Yes.
We would love that.
We would also love that. Yeah, we support that. And I also love he talked a little bit about one of the younger guys on the team, which is always cool to hear a vet come in, and especially a new one, fresh eyes on your roster and some of the guys you have. And he talked a little bit about SirVocea Dennis, who is another guy, I think outside of Tykee Smith, to me, SirVocea Dennis is one of the more interesting stories on this defense of what he could potentially be asked to do if this is his spot next to Levante, if this is the guy that they end up going with, and what that's going to look like. And Haason Reddick had some interesting things to say.
Yeah, well, actually, before you start, let me explain to you that I misled you, and that wasn't Haason that said that it was Anthony Walker.
Oh, Anthony Walker, that's right.
No, it was my fault. It's my fault. I did it. I wrote it down wrong. But you're gonna talk about Anthony Walker, right?
Yeah. But I loved this quote. I thought this was one of probably the most revealing quotes we've heard on SirVocea Dennis, but he said, he will be a great player in this league for a very long time. We've been talking about it since I met him, but the first day of OTAs, he made one of the best plays I have ever seen a linebacker make, including Levante David. He is special, very cerebral. He knows the game well and can really do everything on the field as a pass dropper, blitzer, and as a run defender.
I mean, geez.
That is what you want to hear.
Yeah, and if it's a guy from Northwestern saying that, then you really feel
you
good
really
about
can
it.
And
trust
this is
them.
the
They
guy
don't
that
ever lie.
actually lives with Levante David, and even made the note of, please don't tell Levante that I said this.
Did he say this on the last day of camp? If so, he was literally wearing Levante's jersey when he said it, because they had a bunch of the guys do a jersey swap. And Anthony Walker was wearing Levante David's jersey, which was very confusing when we first got out on the field, when they had helmets on, they're far away, and I'm like...
That doesn't look...
Yeah.
But for a veteran who has seen a lot of ball, has watched a lot of Levante David tape, for him to say, hey, this is one of the most difficult plays I've seen a linebacker make,
big deal.
not too shabby.
Yeah, Anthony Walker's been around for a while. He's on his 9th year or something.
Yeah,
he's seen a lot of experience.
I think it's going to be great to watch SirVocea, and I love him. We did a slice with him recently, which, shameless plug, he was incredible. And if you have not got a chance to see it, it's, I think, coming out soon. And just a very cerebral guy, very thoughtful guy. And I will not give it away because I want people to go watch it. There's a very funny moment about, we'll just say that someone near and dear to him is an Eagles fan.
Oh, man.
And continues to be, even while he's a Buccaneer, and chooses to trash talk him. And I'm just going to leave it at that. It's a very funny little clip. You guys need to check it out. So also we wanted to close kind of letting you guys know about the rookies' schedule right now. I think this is so interesting, and something a lot of people don't know is how much the rookies do that isn't just already. They have so much on their plate in terms of practice, playbooks, lifting, working out. They've got a lot going on. We also have something for them that's called the Rookie Club, which is basically helping them transition into being a professional. It's kind of the way, I don't know if that's how they would describe it, that's how I view it. And it's because it's everything from kind of talking about how to handle themselves on the field to they'll talk finances, they have etiquette and networking discussions. I mean, it's just anything you can imagine that you might need to know now that you're moving into adulthood and professional life. And so they actually even keep the rookies a week longer than everybody else, which means they were still here even after minicamp had ended. And I actually got to be a part of this program that yesterday, myself, along with our PR staff, put them through media training, which is always fun every year and really great. And we talked, not just about how to handle yourself in the media and on social media and all of that, but how to really make sure you're putting your best foot forward to use the media for what you want it to, growing your personality, your brand. And I'm telling you, these rookies now, they've had NIL deals. They're like, I'm aware of what the media can get me. But we put them through some practice runs, so that was really cool. But yeah, I mean, they do so many cool things with the rookies. They take them to a police academy to help them watch some of the training there. I mean, there's just so many things that they do. So I just thought people would find that interesting to know that they had done that. And yesterday, right before our media training, as part of the networking part, they took them on a tour around the entire building and let them meet a bunch of the business staff. And it's always so funny every year when this happens. We don't always know when it's going to happen. There's not necessarily like an announcement made. And it's like you just hear this like thundering herd
coming.
This thundering herd of large men going around the entire floor, which is normally very quiet. We're business staff.
I was in my office with the door closed because I was writing, and it was like really loud out there. I'm like, what's going on?
What is happening?
And then I opened the door and realized what was going on. I'd say you talked about guys, putting themselves out there. I don't think we have to worry about that with Tez Johnson.
Yes.
No, we do not.
I got to meet Tez, and I think he's going to be perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. I love that. That's good. Yeah, he does have a lot of personality. It's very fun. All right, that's going to do it for us on this edition of Bucs Insider. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time.